Hello, 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 my loves. As always, I hope that this live or this replay finds you well and in excellent spirits. Happy Monday, and welcome to another edition of the weekly Astro Forecast live here in the Astro Room on YouTube. I am your host and your favorite astrologer, Mel of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So, if this is our first time meeting, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. So, this channel is everything astrology, spirituality, and manifestation. So, if those are the things you like, if those are the things you love, or if those are the things you want to learn more about, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you'll always be notified when I come out with new content. All right, my loves. So, this is the weekly astro forecast for the week of April 7th through April 13th, 2025. All right, so how are we feeling? I've got some good news, okay? This week, we've got Mercury and Venus turning direct, okay? So there's definitely going to be a shift in the energy since the beginning of March, specifically March 1st. Venus went retrograde, and then Mercury was following right behind her. And so we've been two steps back in order to take one step forward. We've been revisiting the past issues, specifically with respect to relationships and money, past conversations, past desires. There's been a real focus on the past. And beginning this week, that energy is going to start to turn around so we can finally take what we've reflected on and move forward with it. All right, so that is welcome news. Plus, we've got a full moon of the month happening this week, which is thankfully not an eclipse. It's a regular full moon. I don't know about you, but I'm very happy to be getting back to our regularly scheduled programming. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing astrologically this week. All right, so before I get into all of the juicy details, of course, housekeeping and announcements. So if you're joining me live here this evening, thank you so much for tuning in. I sincerely appreciate you. Definitely say hi on your way in and hit that like button as well. It lets the algorithm know that you like this content so that it'll push it out to other people who may like it as well. All right, so it's definitely a wonderful way to help the channel. Hello, Monarcha. You say, feeling like I'm finally taking a solid step forward. Yeah, I definitely feel like that too. Last week was definitely some wonky energy. I was not feeling well physically, and I felt like I was in a whole other dimension. I felt like I was on, I think they would call it like a side quest. I guess when you're in a video game and you have your main objective, but then you have these side quests that you can kind of venture into. That's kind of how I felt last week. Like things were feeling very not real. And so I'm with you. I'm definitely feeling like, all right, it's finally time to move forward. Now, keep in mind that Mars had spent the first 2 months retrograde. And as soon as Mars went direct, Venus and then Mercury went retrograde. So the first quarter of 2025 has really been a look back. It's really been about looking before you leap. It's really been about sort of getting your past affairs in order almost before we have this energy of movement forward. And I think we finally reached the threshold where it's time to finally take some steps forward. So very excited about that. And also, if you are watching this on the replay, I appreciate you just as much. Hopefully, you get what you're looking for with this broadcast, whether it's information, confirmation, clarity, illumination, enlightenment. Hopefully, you find it here. And if that is the case, then definitely hit that like button, subscribe button, and notification bell if you have not already. All right. So, in terms of announcements, by popular demand, I have extended my cosmic clearance. So, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm in the middle of revamping Divine Feminine Works. And so everything that's kind of been a mainstay is about to go away. And so I'm calling it a cosmic clearance. So if you've never gotten a reading, if you've never gotten any merch, if you've never ordered any candles, now would be your time because everything is discounted. Not sure how long I will be extending this sale, but take advantage of it sooner rather than later. Okay. And also, if you kind of want more content you can get that in two ways. Number one, you can join the channel because that is where I have all of my sign-specific content. And number two, you can join my free private community, Cosmic Collective. Okay. It is a free private community where you can commune with other astrology enthusiasts. You can learn more astrology, and there's a lot of amazing things to come in the next couple of months. All of my workshops are there. My free workshop called Your Cosmic Selfie, an intro to your natal chart, is there. It's the perfect place to get better acquainted with astrology. The link will be in the description box below if you would like to join. All right. And so that's pretty much it by way of announcements. So let's get into the juicy details for this week. And of course, we start with the theme. And the theme for this week is Forward March, especially because we have Mercury and Venus going direct this week. Okay. So it's important to understand, while that is good news, right? Both Mercury and Venus will be stationing direct, meaning that they're getting ready to move forward. They're still going to be in their shadow period. So it's not like, boom, already it's time to just start moving forward. It's sort of a slow progression, but that progression begins this week. And so this is going to be a week where you feel not only motivated to move forward, but perhaps things will clear up a bit that will allow for forward momentum. All right. And this is important. Not just because we've been in this retrograde energy for a while, but it allows you to act on all of the reflection that we've been doing since the beginning of the year. I mentioned before, Mars was retrograde, then Venus, then Mercury, right? What have you learned? And more importantly, how can you use what you've learned to move forward? The worst thing that you could possibly do for yourself, wow, I love how that happens. That happens like all the time. The worst thing that you could do for yourself is just sort of write everything off and say, well, all that retrograde, there was all this annoying stuff that came up, but now I'm just ready to move forward without integrating everything that you've learned. If you've taken the time to observe what the retrogrades were really trying to show you and or teach you, right? Retrogrades don't happen for no reason. They're not just annoying just for the sake of it. It's the universe's way of getting us to slow down and be intentional and show us things that perhaps we missed, or show us things that we really need to pay more attention to, that we need to tend to, that we need to ameliorate or even heal, right? And so now that we've had basically 4 months to reflect on various things, because not only were these 3 planets retrograde, but they were retrograde in about 4 to 5 different signs. So there were different areas of life that were touched by all of this retrograde energy. So what were they trying to show you? I can almost guarantee that there have been at least 1 or 2 core lessons that have really been emphasized from the beginning of the year to now, if not from the end of last year to now. A core theme, a core relationship, a core situation, maybe something just within yourself, within your personality, that the universe has really been trying to get you to slow down, think about, and perhaps recalibrate. So take that into account as we move forward. Don't just move forward blindly. Like, okay, it's time to move forward now. Let me just do what I was doing before. The universe has given you ample opportunity to course correct. So now this movement forward, it's meant to help you more. It's meant to really get you where you need to go. It's getting you to divest yourself of perhaps emotional baggage, of trauma, to realize where you've been standing in your own way, to realize who around you may not be the best to be around you, who you can trust, who you can't trust. The beauty of this cycle that we've been in for the last couple of months is that it has opened our eyes to things that we either have not seen or maybe didn't even want to see. And it's in this vein, it's with this newfound information that we're moving forward. So I urge you this week, as both Mercury and Venus are moving forward, what have you learned? I feel like that would be an amazing journal prompt. What have I learned over the last couple of months? What has the universe been trying to show me? And how can I use that to move forward successfully? It's like, think of it this way. you have a destination, right? Maybe you're taking a road trip, you have a destination, and clearly you have a set of directions that you're using to get to this destination. And perhaps spirit has had you sit in traffic, or maybe you had a delayed start to this road trip. But in this delay, or while you're sitting in traffic, you learned that, okay, this route that you were going to take, at some point you're going to have to take a detour because there's construction. Wouldn't it be best to know that before going on this trip and then possibly getting lost because you have to take a detour? Like, the universe is like, hey, you're going to have to take a detour. Everything that this cycle has shown us is information that's useful for us to move forward. So use it for that. That is going to make the difference. So perhaps something that you tried to do in the past didn't work because there was certain information you were lacking. And these retrogrades allowed you to gain that information. So again, use it to your advantage as we start this moving forward process. Okay. So that's essentially what the week is going to feel like, or at least the theme for the week. So now let's get into the details of the astrology for the week. Okay. So first, we start off today with Mercury going direct in Pisces. Then we've got Venus conjunct Saturn in Pisces. Then we've got Venus sextile Uranus. Mars is going to trine the North Node. Then we've got the full moon of the month happening in the sign of Libra. We've got Venus going direct in Pisces as well. And then we close off the week with the Sun conjunct Saturn. And that particular transit, Sun conjunct Saturn, is really going to tie into everything I just said. Okay, so that's the week. Let's see what the moon is up to this week. So we have the moon going from the waxing gibbous to the full moon phase to the waning gibbous phase. And so it starts off waxing gibbous in Virgo, then moves into the full moon in Libra, and then moves into the waning gibbous in Scorpio. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into the week. And we start with today, which is Monday. So today we have Mercury going direct in Pisces, and we've got Venus conjunct Saturn in Pisces. So let's see what this looks like on the chart. So all together, you've got Mercury, Saturn, and Venus conjunct in Pisces with Mercury going direct, okay? So taking all of this in totality, because all three planets are conjunct, meaning that they're occupying the same space in the sky, I personally love when Venus links up with Saturn. Venus linking up with Saturn gives commitment and longevity to Venusian-like things, namely relationships and money. It gives you the opportunity to really plant seeds, to invest in a relationship or invest financially, okay? And now with Mercury finally going direct, perhaps money has been something that you've been ruminating on during this extended retrograde season. Now, with Mercury going direct and with it being conjunct Venus and Saturn, this gives you the opportunity to really put these plans into action, okay? Now, what I love about Pisces, apart from it being mutable, apart from it being tender, affectionate, and emotional, and even sensitive, Pisces is all about healing. And when you put these three planets together, this allows you to ameliorate a financial situation and make it stronger, like fortify it. What I love about Saturn and Pisces is that Pisces is so nebulous, it's so ethereal, and Saturn gives it structure. So if we're talking about, for instance, finances, right? This could give you a certain structure, whether it's a savings structure, an investment structure, an income structure that you could stick to that could heal your financial situation. The same is true of relationships. And keep in mind today, because this is a transit that's happening right now, Venus is still going to be retrograde. So this still gives you kind of that last chance. It's like the universe's last call. It's like, is there any sort of Venusian thing from the past, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a money mindset, whether it's self-esteem, self-esteem, self-worth, right? If there any issue or situation or person from the past that you want as a mainstay in your life, that you want to heal, I feel like this particular transit is going to be perfect for that. Okay. And now that Mercury is moving forward in Pisces, it's almost like the fog is going to be lifted. Piscean energy, like I said, is very nebulous. It's very foggy. You can't necessarily see things for what they are. And during this retrograde cycle with Venus and Mercury specifically, we've been revisiting the past and perhaps being able to see things in a light that we weren't able to see them before. Maybe we didn't see a situation clearly the first time, and the retrograde allowed us to see the reality of a situation. Or maybe now things have become so much clearer. Now we understand what we need to do to fix certain situations so that they can live up to the ideal that we've had in our minds, the dream, the fantasy that we've had of it. I feel like now we're able to finally bring all the components together, heal the situation, and move forward successfully. So I love that for us. So you're going to want to pay attention to wherever Pisces is in your natal chart. This can sort of tell you the area of life where this can happen for you, right? So let's say you're like a Virgo rising, right? Pisces would be your seventh house. This would be your committed relationships. Or maybe this is happening in your second house of money. Or maybe it's happening in your 11th house of friendship, right? It allows for peace, harmony, healing, and mending. So use it for that very purpose. Okay. So that's Monday. So now we move on to Tuesday. And this is what we've got going on Tuesday. So we've got Venus, which is still retrograde, which is going to be sextile to Uranus. We've got Mars trying the North Node, and we've got the waxing gibbous moon in Virgo. So let's see what this looks like on the chart. All right, so at the very top of the chart, you'll see Venus at 25 degrees of Pisces. And then to the very left of that, you will see Uranus at 25 degrees of Taurus. After that, you'll see Mars at the bottom left-hand portion of the chart at 26 degrees of Cancer. And then again, up at the top of the chart, you will see the North Node in Pisces at around 27 degrees. And then finally, at the bottom portion of the chart, you'll see the moon at 1 degree of Virgo. All right, so let's talk about Venus sextile Uranus first, okay? Anytime we've got Uranus in the mix, expect the unexpected. Uranus is the planet of sudden changes, of surprises. And with Uranus still in the sign of Taurus, these sudden changes are really meant to kick you out of your comfort zone, okay? It's meant to expand you almost, right? And sort of get you to venture out of feeling safe and secure, not in a bad way, right? But in terms of personal development and expansion, all of that lives outside of your comfort zone. And Uranus and Taurus is all about that, okay? And then it's going to be sextile to Venus. So with Venus still being retrograde at this point, this could be a chance encounter. This could be a windfall of finances. It's like expect surprises along the lines of finances, relationships, fairness, even. Maybe you've been in a situation that's been imbalanced or there's been a lot of fighting. Venus is also the planet of harmony. So surprisingly, something could suddenly end, right? Strife could end, conflict could end. And now there's peace and there's harmony when you didn't expect. When you didn't expect it, right? Now, the thing with sextiles is that it is all about opportunity. So it's not just something that's going to fall into your lap. It's going to be an opportunity that's walking by. It's going to be up to you to grab it, okay? So with this particular transit, I'm hearing it. Something may not be too good to be true. Because sextiles are generally positive, a situation may arise, an opportunity may arise that either seems too good to be true or maybe you're doubtful of it, especially if it's something from the past, right? Because Venus is still going to be retrograde. It's probably not too good to be true. If a situation arises that could mean more money, a better relationship, mending a relationship, the end to strife and conflict, grab it with both hands. okay? Because it may not come again for a while. All right. So definitely keep that in mind. Then that same day, we've got Mars trine the North Node. Okay. Now, Mars trine the North Node typically is this drive, this motivation to sort of go where you're headed. Now, the North Node currently is in Pisces. And like I said before, one of the amazing characteristics of Pisces energy is that it is healing. Healing on a very spiritual, esoteric kind of level, right? And Mars trying the North Node at this time would be like very much motivated and driven for healing, right? Sort of, it's giving very like, okay, I really want to go to therapy now, or okay, I really want to understand my emotions, that kind of healing. But keep in mind, the way that Mars typically operates is that it's very direct. It's very, I want this, I'm getting it, I have it. Very direct, very straightforward. However, Mars is still in the sign of Cancer, where it's been for what feels like 6 years. We've been feeling this Mars in Cancer energy since October of last year. It hasn't consistently been in the sign of Cancer, but overwhelmingly in the last 6 months, Mars has spent most of its time in Cancer. And Mars in Cancer is quite uncomfortable. Whereas Mars loves to be direct and fiery, in Cancer, it has to really contend with its emotions. It has to be more sensitive. It has to take an indirect approach to things as opposed to a direct and blunt approach to things. So I want you to think about perhaps what you've been trying to accomplish over the last 6 months. And I want you to really reflect on whether or not taking a very blunt and direct approach has helped you. I know for me personally, it has not. Every time I've tried to sort of bulldoze my way forward, steamroll my way forward, like go from point A to point B in the most direct and fastest way, the universe was like, nah. The universe was like, that's not the approach here. The approach here is you have to contend with your emotions. This extended stay for Mars in Cancer is like you cannot ignore your emotions. Okay? And that's extremely important to understand here. So even though you have these drives, even though you have these desires and these motivations, the way to achieve them, at least while Mars has been in Cancer, has been sort of creating things on the inside before you can see them on the outside. Essentially, to boil down everything that I'm saying, the best way to achieve your goals at this time has been through the feminine approach, the receptive approach, the magnetic approach, as opposed to the masculine approach, which is expressive, which is eat what you kill, which is very proactive, right? Ultra Instinct says, my Mars in Scorpio and Cancer moon makes sense now. Yeah. It's so, right? Mars in Scorpio and Cancer moon, like everything, like how you approach things is like, it's an inside job. And Mars is very masculine. Obviously, Mars is the sign, the glyph for Mars is the sign for men, right? And Mars is the warrior. Mars is very expressive. It's combative. It's direct. But the one thing that Mars has been telling us over the last 6 months is that that's not always the best approach. There are times for that. And the time for that is coming soon because Mars is going to be moving into Leo next week. But everything that that Mars in Cancer has been teaching us is that you have to magnetize things to you, not chase them. So think about that. and think about how that has played out in your life over the last 6 months. Like I said, there may have been goals, desires that you wanted to tackle head first, and Mars and Cancer was like, yeah, not so much. So think about that. And remember that emotions play a very important part in the manifestation process. Either when you're trying to, fix something or heal something, right? Or whether you're just trying to gain something or obtain something. So that's definitely something to think about. And then finally, the moon is going to be waxing in Virgo. Okay. And when the moon is waxing, right, this is the lead up to the full moon phase. So this is the part of the lunar cycle where we're taking action towards the completion of something. And when the moon is in Virgo, it's like you got to get your shit in order. You got to clean up, whether physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, right? You got to reduce the clutter and you got to put things in their place. And so when the moon is in Virgo, clean up your mind, your space, your workspace, your closet, whatever it is. Organization is very much a part of the process, and it's important. It's an important part of the process. And when the moon is waxing in Virgo, it reminds us of just that. All right. So that is Tuesday. And now the next day that we have on our calendar this week is Thursday. And on Thursday, the moon is going to be waxing gibbous in Libra. Okay. So let's see what this looks like on the charts. You'll see at the upper left-hand corner, you will see the moon at 0 degrees of Libra. So at this point, the moon won't be full yet. It's making its way to being full. And the moon is still going to be waxing, which means that it's still about taking action towards the completion of something. And so when the moon is waxing in Libra, it reminds us that cooperation and teamwork are really a thing, right? No man is an island. And Libra likes to be social, but Libra also understands the value of relationship, of partnership, of help, of cooperation. So if there's something that you're trying to achieve, whenever the moon is in Libra, it's always a great time to perhaps seek out people that can help you, seek out people that can provide good advice, seek out mediators. If someone you need help weighing out your options when the moon is in Libra, having someone help you out with that is always a good thing. And again, if you need something, be vocal about it. Again, no man is an island, and when the moon is waxing in Libra, it reminds us of just that. All right. So the next up, we've got Saturday, and Saturday is definitely jam-packed with stuff. So that is when the moon will be full in Libra. That is when Venus will finally go direct in Pisces. And that is when the sun will conjunct Chiron in Aries. Okay, so let's see what this looks like on the chart. All right. So at the right-hand portion of the chart, you will see the sun at 23 degrees of Aries. Directly across from it, you will see the moon at 23 degrees of Libra. And then you will see Venus at the bottom right-hand portion of the chart, finally stationing direct in Pisces. And then also on the right-hand side, you'll see both the sun and Chiron will be at 23 degrees of Aries. All right. So let's talk about the full moon and the sun conjunct Chiron because they all interplay together. So as you can see on the chart, whenever we have a full moon, it's when the sun and the moon are exactly opposite each other. Now, inherent in full moons is the concept or the issue of balance because you've got both planets, you got one planet on each side, right? Vying for your attention. The sun represents your ego, your consciousness. The moon represents your emotions and your inner world. And it's like both are kind of vying for your attention. Now, because we have the full moon in Libra, that issue of balance is going to be very much emphasized. And if you want to know more about the full moon in Libra, I just dropped a video on it yesterday. I will leave the link in the description box below so you can check it out if you haven't already. But it's about balance. Where in your life are you imbalanced? Now, the axis of Aries and Libra has a lot to do with me, represented by Aries, versus we, represented by Libra. So it's me and my autonomy versus us in a relationship of any sort, okay? And where is their imbalance? Are you giving too much and your cup is now dry? Or are you hoarding everything and your partner is getting nothing? This thing of fairness and balance is really the structure or the undercurrent of the energy of this full moon. And so, whenever we have full moons generally, and when we have a full moon that's all about balance, specifically with this full moon in Libra, gives you the opportunity to create balance here. But it's going to show you how things are wonky, where things are wonky, where they are imbalanced. And sometimes that can be a hard pill to swallow, right? It can be hard to come to the realization that, hey, I've been selfish in this relationship, or I've been taking too much. Or perhaps I've been a doormat and I've really been letting people take advantage of me, and I haven't stood up for myself. I haven't cared for myself first, right? These are important. And the thing with the full moon is that it culminates and it illuminates, okay? And so it's going to show you something that's been in the dark or something that you haven't paid attention to, or it's going to signify the ending of something. Okay, so this could be the ending of a relationship. This could be the end of a facet of a relationship, particularly if this relationship has been unfair and imbalanced. This full moon could be the signifying the end of that imbalance, right? Not necessarily the end of the relationship. But an interesting wrinkle in this whole thing is that the sun and Chiron are conjunct. This is important because Chiron represents our insecurities, our fears, our hangups, right? Chiron is like your Achilles heel, okay? And with it conjunct the sun, at the time of this full moon, you are very much aware of your insecurities. And this is beautiful because in trying to reach balance in this relationship, you can see how perhaps your insecurities have played into it. Let's say you've been giving too much and you've been a doormat in this particular relationship. Maybe it's because of an abandonment issue or codependency or lack of self-esteem. You're going to be painfully aware of that. And that's good because when you're aware of it, that's what allows you to fix it, to address it. So the light of the sun is shining on your insecurities, and then the full moon is lighting up your relationship or the situation in general. So there's a lot of revelations and illuminations that can happen at this full moon. And you have to look past your insecurities here. It can be very easy to get stuck in them, especially if they're like really blaring in your face, right? Like, oh my gosh, I really do have a codependency problem, or really, I've had such low self esteem. Try not to get caught there. You want to say, okay, that is the space from which I was acting. I was acting as someone who was insecure. I was acting as someone who had, um, codependency issues. So, how would someone who is self assured and secure, how is someone who is independent, how would they act in this situation? That is a question you could ask yourself in order to establish balance here. A Chiron in Aries, is that your natal placement? Yeah, because then you've been experiencing your Chiron return, which is also very interesting. But yeah, Chiron in Aries, it's showing you where you've been experiencing obstacles, insecurities, and fears that have prevented you from being confident within yourself. Aries is all about independence and autonomy. And Chiron in Aries, it's like, okay, perhaps you have insecurities related to being independent or starting things on your own, right? Chiron in Aries is that wound there. Oh, so it is your natal placement. Yeah. So you've been learning for a little bit now, because Chiron has been in Aries for quite some time. You've been learning how to really stand on your own 2 feet. You've been learning how to traverse those insecurities so that you can be autonomous, so that you can not only walk it like you talk it, but you can be comfortable saying, I want this, and going after it. That's sort of the essence of Aries energy. Like, I want this thing, I go get it. Chiron in Aries is like, I want this thing, but I don't know if I can get it. I don't know if I should get it. I don't know if I should go after it. Right? You've been learning to fortify yourself. And this is definitely playing into the energy of this full moon in Libra, right? We just had the North Node going through Aries for 18 months up until January of this year. And North Node in Aries was getting you to be more Aries like, to take care of yourself first, to address your own needs, to understand that even within the confines of a relationship, you can't just lose yourself in a relationship. What you want matters, who you are matters apart from that relationship. And so now that we've hopefully learned those lessons, now that the North Node is out of Aries, now this full moon is giving us another chance to restore balance, where perhaps we've been experiencing imbalance in our life. And then at the same time, Venus is going direct. Now, this also plays into the full moon because this full moon is happening in Libra, and Libra is ruled by Venus. So, also, what I like about this full moon is that we're coming into this space of moving forward, right? This is the first day that Venus is going to be stationing direct. And on the day that she's stationing direct, your first task, if you will, is okay, where do I restore balance in my life? That's the very first thing that the universe wants you to do when Venus goes direct. It's like, all right, where am I experiencing imbalance? Where have I not been fair to myself? Or where have I not been speaking my life for real? I'm glad this resonates with you. Where have I not been fair to myself? Where have I not been fair to others? Where have I had self-esteem issues, value issues? This full moon in Libra with Venus going direct on the same day wants you to address all of that. So Saturday could perhaps be a heavy day. So leading into the weekend, things could get kind of heavy because now you're starting to see, okay, I've been on this seesaw and I've really been on the low point, or I've really been on the high point and now I can't come down, right? You're going to start to see where those imbalances are taking place in your life. And again, I want you to understand that it's not just to show you this for no reason, it's to show you this so that you can restore that balance. So do that. Okay. So that is Saturday. Heavy day, but necessary nonetheless. And then we move on to Sunday and we close out the week, or should I say, we start the next week with the waning gibbous moon in Scorpio. As if things aren't going to be intense enough with the full moon, then on Sunday, shit gets real deep as we go into Scorpio, as the moon goes into Scorpio, I should say. So let's see what this looks like on the chart. So at the bottom right-hand portion of the chart, you will see the moon at 0 degrees of Scorpio. All right, so out the gate, right? Venus is going direct. And like I said before, the universe wants you to restore balance. And then the universe wants you to take it a bit deeper. Every time the moon is in Scorpio, that's when you want to do shadow work, specifically when the moon is waning in Scorpio, which it will be doing on Sunday. Okay, the waning phase of the moon is when the moon is traveling from the full moon to the next new moon. And this is when we divest ourselves of things that we don't need. And when the moon is in Scorpio, waning in Scorpio, that is, you're divesting yourself of repressed emotions, emotional baggage, gunk, trauma that you don't need. This is a great piggyback to everything I said before, because restoring that balance may require you to divest some of that emotional gunk, especially since we've got Chiron in the mix as well. So maybe this full moon is showing you, I have an abandonment wound. And so it makes me very codependent on my partner. And so I make my life about my partner. Everything I do involves my partner. I can't do anything alone. I can't do anything by myself because if I have to, it makes me feel like my partner is going to go away, right? That's a wound. That can be a very deeply seated wound at that. And when the moon is in Scorpio, the moon in Scorpio is like, listen, we got to take, to restore balance here, we really need to take out that abandonment wound. Where did it come from? When did we first learn, or when did we first perceive this abandonment in our lives? When you can get to the bottom of that, that's when the true magic of Scorpio happens. I want you to think of Scorpio, and I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with like planting, right? My mother loves orchids, okay? And orchids can be kind of finicky, okay? Their roots can rot very quickly. And so every so often, you have to remove the rotted roots and then replant the orchid so that the healthy roots can sprout, right? Much like many plants. But being able to pinpoint where this trauma, where this wound originated, is being able to get that wound from the root and uproot it and eradicate it. That's what the essence of shadow work is. It's not just about understanding, okay, I have an abandonment wound. How do I fix it? Where did it originate? Right? So many of the wounds that we carry and the emotional baggage that we tow around with us comes from childhood, right? And trust and believe, like shadow work, it can be really tough. It can be really challenging. A lot of times we don't like to face those things because it's like reopening that hurt that we felt so long ago. But it's necessary if you want to move forward. And in this case, it may be necessary to restore balance here. The only way, to use the example I was giving before, right, of being codependent in relationship. The only way for you to restore balance is to not be codependent, right? To be independent, to allow yourself to do what you need to do, allow your partner to do what they need to do, and then you can come together and have a healthy relationship, right? But the only way you're going to do that is if you stop being codependent. And it's going to be difficult to stop being codependent if you don't know where it originated from. So this weekend may be kind of taxing emotionally. It may require you to face things that you may not want to face or be ready to face. But I want you to understand this in the broader context of what I was saying before. We're at a point where we are starting to move forward. And again, we didn't go through months of retrograde, months of stagnancy to move forward in the same way that we were moving forward before. Since November of last year, the universe has been giving us opportunities to divest ourselves of things we don't need and to think about and reflect on things from the past so that when we get to this point that we're at right now, our actions forward are different. Everyone wants change, right? For the most part. But we all have that one area of life or that one thing in our lives that we would like to make better. To have something you've never had before, you've got to do something you've never done before. And the universe is giving you that opportunity right now. But you really have to do the inner work. Think about what you've learned during the retrograde. What have you reflected on? What has the universe been trying to show you? Specifically this weekend, how can I put things in balance in my life? How can I be fair? Most importantly, to myself, so that I can have balanced situations in my life. And then with the moon in Scorpio, it's like, where have my wounds and my traumas originated from? And how can I uproot them so that they're not a part of my identity anymore? So as you can see, this is kind of an important week in terms of the energy. It's not that I'm not going to say this week is more important than any others, but the shift in energy is very much conducive to, again, moving forward, but in a very different way with more information, and be willing to do the work to not only set things in balance, but uproot the things in our lives that we no longer need. All right, my loves. So that's pretty much all I got for you for this week. All right. So hopefully you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you can use going into this week and beyond. All right. For links to everything that you need, including the Cosmic Clearance Sale, the link to Cosmic Collective, everything else, it's in the description box below. So take advantage while you can. And that's pretty much it. So I wish you guys nothing but the absolute best for this week and beyond. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week, same time, same place. Have a great week.